What's up, guys? Happy Saturday night. We good? We mic'd up everything. Mic levels working just fine. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Fun night for sports, right? Basketball, NASCAR, and baseball. I'm loving baseball lately. Really am. Yankees are just on fire. I just got done doing my game-by-game notes for every game on the NFL main slate for FanDuel and DraftKings. And in just a minute, I'll be in the RunDFS.com NFL VIP voice chat, chopping up the slate, making some lineups, making my groups, talking some ideas with all the cats in the RunDFS.com VIP Discord. So if you guys want to jump in on that, now's the time. Go to RunDFS.com, grab yourself a week pass. Or if you just want the notes and my projections and my player pool, all that good stuff, I'll have that all divvied up before I go to bed tonight. Already have projections up. I'm going to resweep these here once I get off the air. I'm going to dress up my player pool, all my tiers. And then, of course, like I said, my game notes already done. Past that, I added a week 2 injury tracker, just some of the bigger fantasy implication injuries to look out for, some of the key defenders, but a lot of the offensive stuff that we need to pick up on. And then, yeah, go check all that out. It is accessible to anyone with a premium subscription at RunDFS.com. And most importantly, get in there for the voice chat. It's a lot of fun. And then tomorrow, I'm going to try it again. We did it last week after lock. Tomorrow, if you're one of the guys or girls stuck out from hanging out on a Sunday afternoon watching sports at Buffalo Wild Wings or Hooters or wherever you go because of the pandemic, you're welcome to hang out with us in the premium voice chat or just right here on the YouTube channel. I'm going to stream the first slate of games at 4 p.m. Again, I have to get out for a video game tournament, but the first slate of games and maybe a couple of plays for the second half of games, we'll be here sweating all the action. So invite you guys can be part of that. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys stopping by. It's been a weird week for the YouTube channel and analytics. This week I discovered that apparently having full-on Twitch links in my description may not have been doing me favors for the YouTube algorithm, so we're kind of fixing that as best I can. And then, of course, it also looks like having some more live streams will be good for viewership and interaction and stuff like that. So I'm going to try and bake that into the schedule. Obviously, I can't do a lot of live stuff for football, but maybe 1 or 2 videos a week, including potentially a live Saturday night. I think that when it comes to NFL content on YouTube, a lot of it is just people in the market space racing to get there first to soak the views, and then there's not a whole lot of content out there the day before or the night of, such as this, content that's truly reflective of injuries, news, and notes and stuff like that. There's so many, so many suggestions out there that maybe don't take into account that, the entire Colts offense is out, or a couple key defenders are out for the Lions, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully we'll kind of encompass that, and hopefully we'll do it in a short fashion, right? I don't want this to go too long. If I can get it within 30 minutes, that'd be great. Just speed round as I've elongated and elaborated my thoughts in the notes. So essentially what this is to just kind of retouch on anything I talked about earlier in the week, the first look, all that good stuff. As always, if you guys are watching live or on VOD, be sure to be active in the comment section below. Every Monday, we're going to give away $20 via PayPal. Shout out to Daniel Lopez, who won this week. Ironically, Daniel Lopez won a similar giveaway this week last year, so just kind of crazy how that turned out. But that could be you next Monday in the Week 1 review video. Either Monday or Tuesday, we'll announce the next winner. I M Live. So if you guys maybe follow me on Twitter, hit me with that fat retweet, kind of a spur of the moment stream. But shout out to you guys in the chat. Earth to Air, Chronic, Danny, who made her YouTube debut today, Shady, Sideways Universe, Logan, ALC, man. Hope you guys have been all crushing it today and having a pretty chill day. Last I looked, my baseball lineups were doing all right. I knew I shouldn't have, I think I capped Heaney at 40% or 30%. But even then, I was like, man, Heaney has just been really tough against the Rangers. But Todd Frazier isn't there. But no, it didn't go great. But I do have some Leody Taveras and a lot of lines at the top doing all right. Just a lot of 4 and 5 man stacks that don't have a full 4 and 5 man participation. Anyway, let's get back into the slate and get cranked up. We'll go game by game here on DraftKings. Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers. If I go to that injury tracker, the pertinent information that we need to know from this game: Desmond Trufant out. We know Justin Coleman out. So the cornerback situation is really, really soft. Not that I was running from either of those guys, but I'm already in love, enamored, and just locking and loading Devonte Adams until further notice. So this just makes that a little bit clearer of a play. So, I'm just cashing in on that. Kenny Golladay going to be out for a second week in a row. You guys have seen me preach Cephas throughout the week. I played him last week in cash in all formats. He got 10 targets. The end result isn't great. 3 receptions, 43 yards, but he led the team in air yards. Should get a lot of opportunities here. Green Bay projected favored here. If we look at the total, they are -6. So should be plenty of passing for Matthew Stafford, and hopefully he'll kind of sync up with Cephas a little bit more. Another thought I have here is last week everyone was on Marvin Jones and it just kind of didn't pan out. Wasn't my favorite spot against the Bears, but 8 targets. This could easily be a spot where, oh wait, why did we love him last week and we don't love him this week, right? You could get 10 plus targets, 5,700, legitimate wide receiver 1 potential. Guys like him, T.Y. Hilton, Keenan Allen are all still in this very exploitable price range. So definitely don't mind going to him. Also, T.J. Hawkinson is somebody I don't mind. 5,200. He just kind of falls in no man's land at the tight end spot. But he got red zone looks last week. He made good on every single one of his targets, 16 fantasy points. I do like tight end a lot this week. I like some value this week. But those are the names that kind of stick out the most. Aaron Rodgers, again, we can go right back to handcuffing him to Devonte Adams and expecting a high return on investment, but 6,900, you need that in your quarterback spot. I feel like I'm getting priced out of a lot of these top 10 price quarterbacks because of my infatuation with just loading in Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry, Devonte Adams, guys like that. So maybe Rodgers falls through the wayside, but still has 3 touchdown, maybe 4 touchdown potential. Alan Lazard and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, both good supplementary plays. Lazard's going to be the snap count floor play, but I think MVS is going to be your home run ball play every week, maybe 2 or 3 long ball shots. Last week he had the fastest speed of any wide receiver in all of football. I think he clocked in at 21, 22 miles per hour. The only offensive player that had a faster speed than him last week was Raheem Mostert. So definitely a guy that can go get the home run ball once a defense is lulled to sleep by Devonte Adams. A quick play action, and Aaron Rodgers can float out and bomb it deep to MVS. So I do like MVS for some home run potential. It's kind of like a modern day Deshaun Jackson, 4,600. Speaking of Aaron Jones last week only played 50% of snaps. What did I write in my notes? Let's go to Guns Game Notes tab. Control F. Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones only played half of the snaps last week, but he was heavily involved while on the field with 16 carries, 6 targets. Jones led the NFL in seeing 8+ defenders in the box in week 1. So as teams start to focus more on the pass, Aaron Jones will open up higher potential DFS days. Great tournament running back this week. I mean that, 7,100 for him. All these 7K running backs are going to kind of get lost in the sauce, right? CEH for the Chiefs, Dalvin Cook. I think Saquon Barkley, he's not quite 7K, but he's just going to get lost in a shuffle. If you're like me, Zeke and Henry just make too much sense. But Aaron Jones absolutely had the workload last week to cash in on a potential big fantasy day. 17 fantasy points, still fine. If we neutralize and favor and give him a favorable game script, which we do, as they are 6-point favorites, maybe he's running the ball 20 times, and the targets are very, very, very nice for PPR if we keep him at 6 to 7 targets. I love that. So Aaron Jones could be a fantastic tournament play here. I love the Packers stack altogether. I'll have a pretty nice Packers group. I don't see myself getting to Matthew Stafford, but I'm going to have Quintez Cephas as one of my highest owned value plays. And a little dab of Marvin Jones. Chat, anything else for you on this one? Stacking A-Rod and Adams and Elliott. Yep, for sure. Lions best CB is Okudah, fam. He's locking down Adams. Okay, buddy. By the way, Okudah said the hardest receiver that he had to cover in college was his now teammate, Quintez Cephas, right? But I don't think he's locking down. Chronic, the resident Lions fan. Let's move on to the next game, 49ers and Jets. This game, at first, I just expect, on Tuesday when I did my first look, I was like, oh, this is a rout. Niners going to come to town, slap the Jets silly. But the more and more I think about all the moving variables for the 49ers, if we go to that injury tracker, they're going west to East Coast, right? Going to lose a couple hours in the transfer. Richard Sherman on the IR. Jason Verrett, what did I say? Verrett is out. Offensively, George Kittle's out. He makes up almost 100% of snaps. And they just kind of got stunned by Arizona. Now, I'm not calling for a Jets win or anything like that. We could certainly see the 49ers just jet lagging their way across the country, missing some of their key pieces. And maybe offensively not being where you want them to be, right? I think Deebo Samuel was put on the IR. So it's just where do we go on offense with confidence, right? Yeah, you can look at Raheem Mostert last week after his big day, but he did that on a big receiving day. And that was also a day where Tevin Coleman was kind of stifled in terms of, I think he had 9% of snaps based on the air quality crisis that they had in San Francisco. So I think at best we could see a three-headed running back by committee for the 49ers. So I can't really like anyone with confidence. Obviously, Mostert would be my favorite if I had to choose one. But there's not one guy on the 49ers I can click and be like, yep, this is an easy play. I'm playing it no matter what. Even whoever might step up in Kittle's absence. So basically what I'm getting at is if I don't trust the 49ers, I could paint a picture for a little bit of a jet lag day. I think the Jets defense might just fill the need for me at bare bones min price at home, facing perhaps a defense that might let them move the chains a little bit, and then maybe Jimmy Garoppolo just has one of those not great days without his safety blanket George Kittle there. Last week, Jets spotted 27 to the Bills, still walked away with 7 fantasy points. I'm fine with just punting a 2K defense. Offensively for the Jets, not much to love and write home about. I think if I had to, Chris Herndon is an interesting volume play for PPR. And then, of course, Jamison Crowder, who played 98% of snaps last week, got 13 targets. Not a great matchup against Quant Williams. But again, a slot receiver getting 10-plus targets could volume his way to a serviceable PPR game. This can be a game I'm really, really low on. You guys got anything different for this one? I don't know. Herndon Perryman. I think Herndon makes sense, but I'm very... a lot of the groups that I'm running today in terms of tournament stacks involve tight ends, right? I love me Mark Andrews. I'll talk about Hunter Henry. I just kind of landed on him before I got on the air. I was like, this makes a lot of sense. Hayden Hurst makes a lot of sense in that game stack. Juju Smith without A.J. Brown could benefit even more after having a strong Monday night. And I love Logan Thomas. So I don't know that Chris Herndon is going to make a high percentage of my lineups, but I certainly wouldn't talk you off it. It makes sense, the targets, the volumes. You don't need a whole lot to be satisfied at the tight end spot. So, yeah, if you like Herndon, go for it. But I'm not really forcing anything in particular in this game. I think, big 12, 13 game slate. Some games just ain't going to make the cut. So I'm taking Jets defense here, and I'm probably full fading the rest of it. But I might allow Herndon and Crowder to be in the player pool from when I'm scripting. If they fall in some lineups, they fall in some lineups. But nothing that I'm forcing, right? What up, Hey Duranzo? Guys, you see that little G next to Hey Duranzo's name? That means he joined the Gundacker Gaming channel membership program. You guys can have a cool little logo like that next to your name. Support the channel a little bit. There's all different levels. I do have a Gundacker Gaming Discord. We're still trying to get that off the ground. And then, of course, I have weekly exclusive content and early access content. Yesterday, I posted a quick rundown of how I would identify some of my favorite running backs and value plays, group stacks, and how I group it with correlations using my optimizer. And that's only accessible to members. 49ers go a couple days early to East Coast. I mean, yeah, everyone does that, but it's still something you got to adjust for. Crowder is out. Oh, wow. How did I miss that when I just did my injury notes? Unless that just came out. Oh, okay. So now I see why Herndon is the wave. How did I miss that? I literally just. Okay, well then I won't play Crowder. Again, I guess that's just further me full fading them. I guess Herndon, yeah, sure. Herndon could get 15 targets. Again, not a matchup I'm enjoying. Also, I don't mind the 49ers defense, although I don't feel like we're getting a great deal on them, right? Perryman's in play. Sure, Perryman's probably going to be a high snap count guy. Could he get 10 plus targets, 3,800? Sure. I think the value play, the value pool for receivers in the DraftKings sub 4K range is massive today. So yeah, Perryman. I probably don't get to him like on a FanDuel line, but if you think he makes up those Crowder targets, which 13, yeah, 3,800, that's enough volume for me. So all right, chat, you guys got me on that one. I don't lock it in, but I'll replace Crowder with Perryman in my optos. How did I miss that? That's crazy. 100% of snaps last week. Yeah, actually I have. By the way, if you guys are RunDFS.com VIP subscribers, check out the Week 1 2020 stats tab. It does list all offensive players, offensive snaps played last week, and then, of course, their usage and involvement. So as we go forward, I'll kind of have more dedicated tabs for each category, but with just one game sample size, I didn't want to push the issue too much, So if you guys want to sort through that, you guys said Perryman played all the snaps last week. That's absolutely correct. Had 5 targets, sure. Don't love it though. I hate it. We're gonna win a tournament with Perryman. Yeah, if he gets to 15 fantasy points as a wide receiver 3, go for it. But again, this is a game that I kind of don't want to get stuck on. You know what I'm saying? But sure, Herndon and Perryman. I won't walk you off of it. Giants and the Bears, another game I'm kind of low on. The Giants are a team that, even though they have a low total, 18.25, you can still project a high concentrated amount of usage on a core of players based on whether or not Golden Tate plays. I think I have him questionable at best right now. He didn't play last week, so I'm usually leaning out till in. Limited in practice, so I guess maybe he's closer to in. Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, Saquon Barkley, Evan Ingram, and then you could point chase Darius Slayton if Tate was out. No, the matchup is not appealing to me in the slightest, but what I'm getting at is they're a team that has a pretty decent predictive value in where the targets go, where the volume goes. So on a week where Saquon Barkley is going to be ghosted when it comes to ownership, right? You're going Zeke, you're going Henry. You might go down a little bit more to some of the value plays, or you might say, hey, CMC got me 28 last week. He's a free 30. Barkley, after rushing for, 8 yards last week? 6 yards last week? He's probably not going to get a whole lot of traction here. And we know he's just a dynamic running back. If he breaks one and gives you a shot at 20-plus fantasy points, heck, he scored 12 on 6 yards rushing last week. He could be a cool tournament play. that pays off. I can't get behind him with a high level of confidence, but he certainly would be in my player pool, probably capped at 10%, but not associated with any groups or anything like that. I'm not going to have invested interest in the Giants. And on the Bears side, Alshon Jeffrey wants his money. Not Alshon. Allen Robinson wants his money. Alshon Jeffrey used to play for the Bears. He's 6,400. I heard a report that says maybe negotiations are kind of rekindling a little bit, but they're still a little bit ways away. Meanwhile, I heard Tariq Cohen looks like he's about to get a deal done. A-Rob got 9 targets last week. He might line up a little bit with James Bradbury. Nothing that I'm in love with, but the targets could be there for him. Anthony Miller, 5,200. He's likely going to be the slot guy. He had 6 targets and a ridiculous touchdown last week. I think he's fine if you want to look his way. But I think he only had like 50-something% of snaps if I control F. Anthony Miller, 41% of snaps. So, again, that's kind of one of those opportunity plays. I would love a higher snap count. And there's already guys at this price point that I can paint for a better snap count with the same, if not higher, target volume. And just game script wise, we got the Bears as -5.5. So maybe this is a spot where David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen kind of stall the clock a little bit more. So hard to be overly excited about a game with a 42 total. So I'm not going to push it. Open to hear what you guys are thinking before we get on to the next one. This week, not playing Zeke, Henry, Taylor feels like auto loss. I don't feel good not playing them, but I think you have to eat the chalk. We'll get to Jonathan Taylor. I'm right there with you on Zeke and Henry. I'm not as high as everyone else on Taylor. I don't think he's an inherent bad play. I just don't feel like he's a lock for me. Like, I don't feel like I lose if I don't play him. But he projects well. But yeah, I'm right there on Zeke and Henry. Zeke and Henry and Devonte Adams, I think, are the core. And I know it's going to strap my average salary remaining, but I can't see myself walking into anything with less than 50% of those 3 guys. And I'm likely try and get higher. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot on this game, so I'm going to keep it moving. Rams and the Eagles. Robert Woods got himself a nice little deal over the week. 6,400 for him. He's right there in kind of like the Mike Evans territory. 8 targets. They were very creative with how they used them. I don't know if you saw his route tree. All over the place. So I'm not too worried about individual matchups. They get him involved. 6,400. Can I get 20 plus? Absolutely. Malcolm Brown, I think, is an apple of a lot of people's eyes after his game on Monday night. I'm probably not going to challenge that Eagles front 7 just yet. Cooper Kupp was pretty low in snap counts. Maybe he possession receivers his way to a decent game, but there's really not much from the Rams offense that I'm chasing there. I don't mind a shot or two at the Rams defense. The game on Sunday night, they held the Cowboys to just a field goal the second half, right? A lot of the Cowboys goodness came from the first half. They made adjustments. Aaron Donald just went bananas. The the Washington football defense just looked pretty doggone solid against this Eagles team last week. They should be without Alshon Jeffrey again. I'm fine with going to the Rams defense at 2,800 and chip and chairing them for maybe a decent day. Really, when it comes to defense, I'm just looking for that defense that donks into a touchdown. So if I think Carson Wentz could have a tough day behind the line again, sure, I'm going after it. On the Eagles side, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goddard, they're going to be a frustrating combo to try and get right every week. So more than likely, I'm just going to wash my hands with it. Miles Sanders back in the mix. I know a lot of people are kind of on him now. That's fine. I'm not going to push away from that. I don't think I'm getting there. I still don't trust Doug Peterson a whole lot. And knowing that Clement and Boston Scott and guys like that do lurk, I'm probably not going to force the issue, especially since I didn't think the Rams defense looked that bad last week. And I can't really compare one game sample size on what Ezekiel Elliott was able to do versus what Miles Sanders might be able to do. So if you land on Sanders, fine. maybe I do green check him in my player pool to allow him to make a couple lineups, but it's not somebody I'm specifically going out of my way to seek. What are you guys thinking here? Nickel Roby Coleman revenge, yeah. Brown probably doesn't get it done tomorrow. I like Cooper Kupp and Sanders for tournaments. Okay. I mean, I'm with you on I'm not chasing Brown. I assume you're talking about Malcolm Brown. Yeah. Cooper Kupp's interesting. Like Cooper Kupp has won me some money in my day, but since like the last quarter of last season, going into this season, the targets are just a little less than what I want to see. 29 yards on 5 targets. I would love him to be a little bit more of a possession guy, but there's definitely going to be weeks where Cooper Kupp outshines a guy like Robert Woods or something like that. I think if you're playing Cooper Kupp at this juncture, you're just kind of like, I got a feeling, right? I got a Cooper Kupp feeling, and I'm not against that. Eagles defense, another team, another west to east situation. Eagles front seven still, pretty aggressive. Dwayne Haskins was under pressure a whole lot last week. Did he get there? Sure, 2,600. It's just there. They ended up with 3 fantasy points last week, 3 sacks. But just 159 passing yards and 80 rushing yards. So, allowing 239 total yards, the end result of the score for the Washington football team maybe looked a little bit better than with the metrics, right? If a team's going to allow less than 300 total yards, it ain't but crazy to look at, but I do still want to respect Sean McVay and the Rams offense until further notice. Let's go on to the next game. The Jaguars and the Titans. Titans have a big one, right? A.J. Brown is out. If we go to the injury tracker tab in the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet, A.J. Brown played 81.5% of snaps last week with 8 targets. So logistically, you want to think that, we got to replace that, right? Yes and no for me. Obviously, Corey Davis is a fine guy to be a beneficiary. Without A.J. Brown, Juju Smith, same thing. I mean, that's where I'm going. I do think Corey Davis might be more popular than he should be. He had 8 targets last week, 100 yards. But this Denver game was really weird. It was only 16-14. But the Titans had every right to be up double 2 possessions, right? Steven Gostkowski just kept missing kicks. And at the end of the day, Derrick Henry still had over 30 carries. So I think if that game if Gostkowski was making those kicks, I don't know that Tannehill is throwing the ball as much as he did. It's probably just a feed Derrick Henry, milk the clock situation. So that's kind of where I'm leaning at here. Obviously, Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith, I think, profile well individually. I don't think I get into any Tannehill stacks, but Derrick Henry is going to be one of my highest owned players on the slate. Meets every checkbox requirement that I have for a running back, massive home favorite, right? That's what I'm looking for first and foremost. And nobody's more involved in the red zone as a running back than a guy like Derrick Henry. They did open as a 9-point favorite. They moved to 7.5. Maybe a little bit of no A.J. Brown, a little bit of the Jaguars stunning the Colts. But again, Derrick Henry is going to be a fixture in my lineups across the board, without flinching. On the Jaguar side, I'm not going to dabble with the running back situation. I do think you can make cases if you're just trying to game script positively for fantasy. Team that trails, lots of pass-friendly game scripts and play calling. DJ Chark, Keelan Cole, nothing here that's going to make me feel warm and fuzzy, but if you wanted to go for it, sure. DJ Chark at 6K, I just feel like I'm not warm and fuzzy there, right? We're not far from Mike Evans. We're not far from Robert Woods and stuff like that. So I do respect the Titans defensively, and I also kind of expect them to just dominate the clock, kind of get back to basics, right? What we saw last year. One stat that you might have seen in the video yesterday that Danielle brought up is if you look at Derrick Henry DKP by game log in last 8 Titans wins, I believe is the right way to word it. Yeah, that came up. So in the last 8 games that the Titans have won, including Monday night, Derrick Henry has scored 27 or more, including a couple of 30s and 40s. I know he got 19 on Monday night, but again, I also think Monday night he leaves some points on the board if Gostkowski makes some kicks, and then he's just running the ball even more. So a great ceiling for Derrick Henry, tons of volume. I'm almost all in on him. And if you wanted to handcuff him to the Titans defense, sure. I just feel like I'm not paying over $3K often for the Titans defense. What are you guys thinking here before we go on? Manny, what up, Manny? Javon Hargrave's back too. ALC, I'm not even a Henry guy, and I know he's a lock. Yeah, I can't really get out. I can't get away from it. Just locking it in. But like I said, the Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith hype train might be a little bit crazy. 43 pass attempts for Ryan Tannehill. He made 29 completions. I feel like there's games last year where he didn't even have 29 pass attempts. Ryan Tannehill pass attempts per game last, let's go, I don't know, 15 games. He's averaging 26 pass attempts. So let's go by game log. And I would imagine if you split that even further into games that they won, it's even lower, right? So 43 against Denver, 31 against KC, where you got to go out there and fight. 14 pass attempts against Baltimore, 15 against New England, 27. He had more completions last week than a likely throw in a couple of games coming forward. So don't go nuts. Like, just don't go crazy with a lot of Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith overlap. I might even make a rule in my scripting where if line has Corey Davis, no Jonnu Smith, and if line has Jonnu Smith, no Corey Davis, right? Don't get two Titans receivers might be a correlation rule that I set myself. Anything else here before we move on? What up, Gump? What's up, Josh? What up, Jingle? Should I trade Nick Chubb for Devonte Adams? Is it PPR? Yes, but also yes. Yes, do that. Nick Chubb, I think his game on Thursday night is probably the super ceiling range of outcomes and a potential timeshare with Kareem Hunt. Devonte Adams is probably going to be your wide receiver 1 this season. Maybe a guy like DeAndre Hopkins or something like that could flirt with him. But with Michael Thomas going down, yeah, go get Devonte Adams, bro. Just do it, especially if it's PPR. Let's move on to the next game here. The Panthers and the Buccaneers. The Bucs, man, they have the highest total on the slate, 28.25, tied with the Cowboys and Ravens. Chris Godwin going down. He will be officially out. It's going to open up a lot of opportunity for Mike Evans, who should bounce back. He's not listed with an injury this week. He's not up against Marshawn Lattimore, who does just historically own him. So look for Mike Evans to benefit. And then Scotty Miller is a guy that's becoming a trendy value pick here, right there in that Corey Davis area, right? He had 6 targets last week. If we go to the 2020 stats, Scotty Miller played 61% of snaps, 6 targets. If you go look at Chris Godwin, he was one of the league leaders in wide receiver snap counts, 94.29%, 7 targets. Scotty Miller probably going to absorb a lot of that. So Scotty Miller could be a cheap option, cheap exposure against probably the worst defense in football, the Carolina Panthers. So sign me up for Evans, sign me up for Scotty Miller. Tom Brady, I think, makes the cut, right? The media really pushed how bad he's been, throwing pick sixes in his last couple games. But, I mean, on film, I don't think he was inherently horrible. I think 20-plus fantasy points is a good start. I think 6,500, you do feel like you're paying a premium there. But if you're going to love Scotty Miller, if you're going to love Mike Evans, Tom Brady seems like an obvious handcuff in for a Bruce Arians offense that will give him some opportunities to get right. And this also might be a spot where they even with a lead, they might just let Tom Brady kind of air it out, make a statement. You know what I'm saying? Ronald Jones. We'll talk about Ronald Jones. This is one of those uncomfortable spots because the snap counts weren't super favorable to him, 47%. But the usage. 17 carries and 3 targets, so he essentially had 20 touches. Leonard Fournette, I don't believe is just going to be sub 10% snap guy. I think as he learns the playbook, they open him up a little bit more. You're going to see more of him. But I'm not going to get off or get away from the idea that Ronald Jones was here first. And until he gives, Arians a reason to go elsewhere, I think he's going to get first dibs. So because of that, as one of the largest favorites on the entire slate, actually the largest favorite on the entire slate, I have to consider the running back. -9.5. This Panthers run defense was horrendous last season. Josh Jacobs had a field day last week. I don't think Ronald Jones is on a Josh Jacobs level, but at 5,200, I could absolutely see a range of outcomes where 20 touches for 100 all-purpose yards and a touchdown's there. 5,200. Can I get 20 fantasy points out of that? Can I get 15? Yeah. I think Jonathan Taylor's right there in the price area, and for me, if I'm going off of any volume and opportunity, I feel like I might rather play Ronald Jones than Jonathan Taylor, even though I know Jonathan Taylor is the fantasy sweetheart of the week. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. I was kind of air out some of the concerns I have. I don't have a concern with his talent. I just have a concern with believing he's all of a sudden the workhorse because he wasn't last week after Marlon Mack went down. So Ronald Jones has a strong case for him. If we flip that, we run it back. The Carolina Panthers, I talked about it earlier. No one's playing Christian McCaffrey. Everyone last week was trying to jam him in, right? 10K, get you 30. He scored just fine, 28.5 fantasy points. We're all happy. Usually if you get 30 fantasy points, that player has a chance to get you at the top of a tournament. A lot of people paired him with a Boston Scott last week. Maybe you don't have that insane value at running back this week, but you certainly have that insane value at wide receiver. So if you were brave enough to full fade a Devonte Adams, a DeAndre Hopkins, somebody like that, and just go full on triple value at wide receiver, you might be even able to get a McCaffrey, Zeke, Henry line. Is that out of the question here? Is that completely unattainable? That gives us 39 per. So if I just thinking outside of my head, Cephas, who do we say? Scotty Miller maybe. Even, I don't know, a name like Corey Davis. You guys mentioned Perryman, right? 3,800. I can bring that up to 2K, and then if I go get the Jets defense in here, I bring that up to 5-1. There's a lot of 3K tight ends, right? If I just name one name, I don't know, Logan Thomas, it gives me 6-6 for a quarterback. I kind of like the idea of a low on McCaffrey, which forces me to not have to be at 50 to 60% to feel like I have leverage. And the lineup construction just isn't that much. I don't feel like I'm giving up a whole lot with some of these value plays here. So, I don't know. Maybe McCaffrey is higher owned than I think he will, and we continue to underestimate the amount of casual players, because I think Gronkowski had an elevated ownership last week. But, man, it is not that out of reach to go out there and get you some big boy running back lineups this week. So, just an idea. The game script for the Panthers here, playing from multiple possessions behind, so furthering the potential for pass catching. We did kind of worry about the new Panthers personnel and philosophy, throwing the ball a little bit less to McCaffrey. We even saw last year with Teddy Bridgewater, felt like he wasn't throwing to Alvin Kamara as much. If you believe that sustains, I wouldn't. I don't have sample size to say yay or nay, other than it seems like it's possible that McCaffrey's not going to be a 10-target guy. But double-digit points behind, if they get in that 2-minute drill, 5-minute drill offense, McCaffrey's going to be right there in the mix, in the thick of it. And this offense still put up, or the Panthers still scored 30 last week. So I don't think it's out of the range of outcomes for McCaffrey to still be a serviceable fantasy play. And then also on the Panthers receiving cores, I think there's some cheap, high snap count guys that got decent targets and decent average depth of targets. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, the top three options for me. Robbie Anderson made the most of it. 8 targets, cashed in for 28 fantasy points, 100-plus yards. Again, they're going to need scoring, it seems like, and they're going to have to pass the ball. So if you take even more targets or more pass attempts going for Bridgewater, it looks like he had a rapport there with Anderson. Curtis Samuel, I think he might have outsnapped DJ Moore. Here, let me go to Carolina in the spreadsheet. Curtis Samuel. No, he did not. Curtis Samuel played 75% of snaps last week. DJ Moore 86%. So he didn't trail him by too much, but he did get 8 targets. So you have the 3 receivers here combining for 25, 26 targets. I'm not going to triple stack with Teddy Bridgewater, but there's plenty of game script positive plays here for PPR purposes to kind of throw these Panthers receivers in the mix for your optimizers, and even some run back options, right? If you're going to dab with the Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Scotty Miller combos, and you want to run it back with a Carolina guy, it doesn't have to be CMC. It could be Robbie Anderson. It could be DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, guys like that. I probably don't play any defense in this game. Yeah. What are you guys thinking? Don't forget. What up, Hope you're doing well. What's up, Josh? Love Watson, garbage time king, Deshaun Watson. All right. Don't forget Watson. Some people might want to take stabs on Watson. Oh, Justin Watson, the receiver for the Bucs. Yeah. There's a running gag that you play white receivers with Tom Brady, right? The Edelmans and stuff like that. So Justin Watson kind of fits that, but sure. Jordan Reed, salary saver, 8+ points all day at 2.6. Yeah, Taylor, chalk, and faded. I'll talk a little bit more about Jonathan Taylor in a second, but I'm not warm and fuzzy on Jonathan Taylor. Like, right, he was a huge college name, yada yada yada. I think he's a fine play, but I think he's being overhyped. We'll see. The only team that shut McCaffrey down is the Bucs. Yeah, last year, I believe it was a Thursday night football game. I was pretty high on McCaffrey for a showdown slate, and he was stifled. So there is some track history questions here, right? What's up, Mike Lowry? Yo, Mike, I seen you in them comments today. Tyreek 2 touchdown upside this game, sure. All right, let's move on to the next game here, which is the Broncos and the Steelers. I'm going to try and speed it up a little bit. I do have an obligation to be in the RunDFS.com VIP voice chat, which you guys can jump in right after this video. So Denver and Pittsburgh. I'm going to make this really simple. I will have no Denver Broncos. I don't care that Phillip Lindsay's out. I don't care if Cortland Sutton plays or not. Pittsburgh, I do like some Pittsburgh plays here. I'm going to stay away from the running back situation. James Conner appeared to hurt his ankle on Monday night. Then Benny Snell showed up and showed out. Then James Conner practiced a full all week. So I'm just going to stay away from that situation. If I'm going to get exposure to the Pittsburgh side, sure, I can make a case for Juju Smith. Absolutely. He's one of those 6K receivers that could pop off. We love Big Ben at home. But Deontay Johnson's probably my favorite option here, 4,500. He had 10 targets last week, continuing a stretch last year to end the season where he was getting involved. I love that Big Ben didn't give up on him. He had was it the opening kickoff where he fumbled? He also had a drop catch. So for him to still get 10 targets was encouraging. He played 86% of snaps. He is the kick returner. So if you don't think Drew Lock and Noah Fant carves up this Pittsburgh defense that held Saquon Barkley to 6 rushing yards, Deontay Johnson double dip with the Steelers defense? ? Maybe your runs one back. I love that little combo in deep field tournament. So pretty self-explanatory there. Big Ben at home. His historical home road splits have been pretty nice. 6,300. I feel like you're kind of paying a premium here. So I probably don't get there, but I'm all about some Deontay Johnson fillers in my lineups, and that's probably it. I want to believe in James Conner. If James Conner is healthy and he goes out there and gets 10 targets and 20 carries, I just have to wear it, right? But it's hard to trust that after what we saw the other night, because the other question there is if he was able to practice in full all week, was he fine on Monday and he just looked bad and Tomlin was like, all right, hot hand to Benny Snell. I don't know. So I'm just going to stay away with that. But give me Deontay Johnson and give me some Steelers defense. I don't see myself playing any of the Denver guys. And even Melvin Gordon, right? You want to say, hey, no Phillip Lindsay. I can get behind some Gordon. Had plenty of involvement on that Monday night game. But, man, they just held Saquon to 6 yards. If he got in a touchdown and 80 yards, so what, man? I need 20 plus, 25 to feel like I missed out. So I'm just going to stay away from the Denver offense, right? See what you guys got here in the chat before we move on. My Steelers. What up, Stellar? No Gordon. I agree for Washington on Steelers. Yep. Deontay, top play. All right, cool. We're on the same page there. Atlanta at Dallas. I love everything about this game. I loved everything about this game. Monday, Tuesday, nothing has changed. You don't need me to tell you that this game should be high scoring, right? 28.25 implied total for the Cowboys. Falcons are up there. I loved the Seahawks stack group last week. I ran it back both sides. I'll be doing it again this week. Right? We're all playing Zeke. Love the Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper and even a little bit of CeeDee Lamb. I love Calvin Ridley. I would say there's the question on what to do with Russell Gage. I think Russell Gage is averaging 7.5 targets per game since they traded Mohamed Sanu last year. You feel like that's not sustainable because Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley's there. And Hayden Hurst ran a bunch of routes last week, didn't get a bunch of targets, but you feel like some targets will start going his way, kind of like Austin Hooper existed. So I feel like eventually Russell Gage isn't going to get 10 to 12 targets. But still, 4,800, if I'm going to have a shot at 8+ targets in a potential high-scoring game, I'm in. But that's just something I'm thinking about in the back of my head. Then, of course, Todd Gurley, I think, is the other fringe play here, 6,100. 14 carries last week, 4 yards a carry, cool. 5 targets, only caught 2 of them. It's a good sign that he was getting some targets. If I control F Gurley here, snap count for him was 45%. Obviously, the game script got away from them, and it should not be favorable for the Falcons' run game here either. So Gurley's just kind of one of those fringe plays. If you, if Julio gets down at the 1 and Gurley runs it in a couple times or something like that, sure, I'll include him, but I'm probably not going to force the issue. I do remember one game between the Rams and the Cowboys a couple seasons back where Gurley and Zeke were having a nice little slugfest, but I feel like it is a little bit different situation here. But full stack in this game, every which way, not playing defense, right? We don't need me to kind of confirm the validity in this game, right? What you guys got in chat? Claypool as a tournament option, red zone threat. Sure. Hurst is a red zone threat. He can see the end zone. I like Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst was a top 5 tight end and routes run per drop back last week. I think he's going to be involved. I think he's a fine successor to what Austin Hooper was able to do. And we know Falcons love their pass catching tight ends, right? Cash or GPP. Do I start Montgomery or Malcolm Brown for season long? Is that David Montgomery or Malcolm Brown? That's a tough spot to be. I would probably go Malcolm Brown. I don't know. David Montgomery's matchup's better, but the fact that they just gave Tariq Cohen some money makes me a little bit worried. Neither one of those guys are like high snap count guys that I'm banking on. Malcolm Brown probably plays for the better offense, so maybe we go that route. But I don't want to be there. Styler says anomaly for Gage. I think 3 to 6 max for. I don't think it's an anomaly. I don't think it's fair to say that. I do think his average targets are going down, right? Even at the end of last season, right? Calvin Ridley was injured for a little bit, but it's not like this was a one-game wonder. Average targets per game log let's go last 10 games. If we're using StatMuse here, averaging 7.8 targets per game last 10 games. Again, since they traded Mohamed Sanu, he's been up there. But yes, if we dig a little bit deeper, there was some Calvin Ridley injury stuff into the season. You're not forcing Julio to do as much. And last week was just, I think the biggest anomaly about last week is that all the Atlanta receivers were getting crazy targets, right? Look at this: 12 targets for Ridley, 12 for Julio, 12 for Russell Gage. 36 targets for 3 receivers. It's really hard to find that type of volume, first of all, and then for that to sustain, it's just not there. So I agree that Gage is going to regress in volume, but it's hard for me to say that's an anomaly just yet because he has been involved, and there is sample size going into last season with a little bit of chemistry with Matty Ice. Flex, Ingram, Anthony Miller, or Slayton. Are these season-long questions? Because if that's a DraftKings question, restart the lineup, buddy. I guess if Golden Tate didn't play, I would probably chase Slayton. And then Ingram, I guess, just for the fact that Lindsey's out. But that's all, like, that's only season long. I wouldn't be playing any of those guys on DraftKings. All right, let's move on to the next game here. If you're new to the channel, this is more of a daily fantasy stream, but I don't mind answering season-long questions, but just kind of know my mind's clocked in on DraftKings scoring algorithm, pricing algorithm, and stuff like that. So if you are asking season-long questions, just maybe say, hey, for season-long this or that. Where was I? We were on the Dallas game. All right, moving on to Minnesota and the Colts. Minnesota's kind of like a two-trick pony for me. Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and this week I'm not like enamored by either. Cook just kind of gets priced out of consideration for me in high exposure, like considered exposure, because of the existence of Ezekiel Elliott and Derrick Henry and guys like that. With that said, he was involved last week, 12 carries, couple targets. Game got away from them, but in neutral to positive game script, you'd probably expect 20 touches for Dalvin Cook. Sure, Adam Thielen caught some improbable catches, and at 7,200, I'm putting AK up for Devonte Adams and DeAndre Hopkins and guys like that. So I just think both these guys maybe make cool flyers in tournaments, but I think at their price, I don't see myself having a large amount of them. But it's not to say that they can't get there for tournaments. The Colts are featured in the Week 2 injury tracker. Jack Doyle out. He played 73% of snaps last week. Michael Pittman did not practice Friday. He played 53% of snaps last week. Zach Pascal, questionable, played 62% of snaps last week. Marlon Mack out for the season, played 15% of snaps last week. That's a couple of snaps to replace and a couple targets to replace. So this is where the hype train begins on Jonathan Taylor. And Jonathan Taylor is extremely, extremely talented. He was one of the highest drafted rookie running backs in season long. And a lot of people even wanted to play him last week. So I want to be real clear about this. I am not against the idea of Jonathan Taylor. Logistically, it makes all the sense in the world for him to be the north-south back in the absence of Marlon Mack. But I also feel like if that was their immediate plan, maybe he has a closer snap share to what Nahim Heinz had last week than what he ultimately did. If we go look at the Week 1 overall stats, and I pull out the Colts here, running back, Taylor played 35% of snaps, was involved to his credit, 9 carries, 6 targets. A lot of people dogged him for not being a pass-catching running back. Well, he caught all 6 targets. That made him a fine play, but Nahim Heinz still played over 52% of snaps, and he was getting run before Marlon Mack went down. So my only tongue-in-cheek worry here is it just seems like every week there's always that one value running back that has an extremely wide range of outcomes, and this week it feels like Taylor could be that guy. So if I look at ownership projections here in a bit, and Taylor is just egregiously high at 5,700, and I'm wondering what is a great game here, right? Do I get 15 to 20 fantasy points? If so, then I play him. But if I keep running this game, is he that much better of a play pre-flop than Nahim Heinz? And is it just even worth project? Do we project him from 30% to 60 to 70%? Right? Is he gonna? I feel like at best you would project him to split snaps with Heinz. So I don't know that I'm as warm and fuzzy and lock and loading him as everyone else is. I saw someone in the chat earlier say if you don't play, I feel like if you don't play Taylor, you lose. I don't feel that way about him, but I'm certainly not anti-Taylor. But it's just one of those ownership plays that I'm gonna have to lean on or against as I look at projections going through the night. But with that said, there's a couple pass catchers down as well for the Colts. If you wanted to get really, really fancy in tournaments, Mo Alley Cox, 3K. He's the next man up. Trey Burton's still on the IR. No Jack Doyle. We know Phillip Rivers has, made a living off of guys like Antonio Gates. He was working with Hunter Henry just fine. Maybe he's somebody that's really, really, really sneaky for a milli maker. But there's no Like, there's no reason for me to not like T.Y. Hilton at 5,700, Paris Campbell at 4,500. I think Campbell's going to be a little bit more trendy just because of his price point. But both guys make perfect sense here, so I'm fine with that. And then Nahim Heinz. Even if you are on Taylor, you have to admit that Heinz could be a cool PPR play and could score the same or more as Taylor just because of what he's able to do when he catch and shoots, right? 8 targets last week, caught all 8 of them for a touchdown. Not a whole lot of yards per catch, but in PPR, man, those catches add up. And Rivers, we saw him use Danny Woodhead. We saw him use Austin Eckler. So that's kind of why I'm like not just running to Taylor. So if you're on Taylor, don't let me be the random guy that gets you off of him the night before. I just wanted to explain why my ownership to Taylor is probably not going to look like the Fields, and just kind of what I was alluding to earlier to the chat, right? See what you guys got. I'm sure this will be a fun one, right? Fading Taylor could be the key to cash games if he has under 10 DKP. Like, even if he had 15 DraftKings points, if you played him, you're fine. If you faded him, you're fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not. Taylor has to break the slate at 25, right? Then we're having an issue. But I just think that's a lot of responsibility to expect week 2 for a rookie running back. You know what I'm saying? It just seems like every week there's a value running back that just doesn't get there. Last week, Boston Scott. Just seems like every week. If you've been playing DraftKings for a while, like you can relate, right? Chronic says fade Taylor if you want to. I mean, like, Chronic has one of the shortest memories in all of DFS, I guess. Sanders or Taylor, DK, GPP. So, if we're going based off of like tournament ownership, we're getting hyped up for a guy that just played 35% of snaps. Like, is that a thing? Are we that excited? He didn't even like out snap Heinz after Mac got injured. Like, I don't know if I'm buying that. Should be positive game script though. All right, good matchup, sure. Then again, we thought it was a good matchup last week, right? And then the Jacks just kind of stunned them. So I don't know. I love the voice chat. LOL. Yep, my wife faded her marriage. So I can't fade Taylor. I'm not telling you guys to fade Taylor. I'm just explaining where I'm at. Taylor gets targets 2-gun. He does, but so does Nahim Heinz. I'm not the... Hey, last week on video, I said I expected Taylor to be a change of pace target guy. Phillip Rivers is going to throw to running backs. Even Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler, he was throwing to his running backs. It is what it is. Truth, Rivers loves throwing to his backs. Absolutely. Charlie says, wouldn't expect a ton of catches for tight ends and running backs versus Kendricks. Harris Smith, what's good? What's up, ACP? Jacob, Allen Robinson looks good. I don't mind him. He's got to make a statement for the money he wants, right? Like I said, I heard that contract negotiations were kind of opening back up. Yo, shout out to the 50+ of you guys hanging out with me on an impromptu Saturday night stream. Hit that thumbs up if maybe you want this again next week. If I did it again next week, I'd probably try and shoot for maybe an hour earlier, but I was watching the Yankee game. I was working on my VIP notes, stuff like that. Definitely want some more live content, right? I miss interacting with chat. Next game, the Bills and the Miami Dolphins. So, I don't see myself getting to any of the Dolphins, but the Bills could be the most obvious tournament-winning stack that, like, no one's on, right? Check this out, right? StatMuse, right? You guys know StatMuse. We use it in NBA. Josh Allen, DKP by game log versus Dolphins. He's only played him 4 games in his career, but I always put 10 games as a sample getter. In 3 of those games, he's exceeded 30 fantasy points, with the floor game there being 21. Last week, he was crushing it, right? 6,700 is a much higher price tag than maybe we've paid in years past, but he exceeded 30 fantasy points last week, running for 50+ yards. Now he has Stefan Diggs added to his repertoire of weapons against a Miami defense that just got shredded by the Patriots. And I know just, it's the Patriots. It's the Miami Dolphins defense. Buffalo could be just such an obvious in retrospect tournament stack. Stefan Diggs, 94.25% of snaps last week, 9 targets, caught 8 of them. John Brown, 93% of snaps, 10 targets, caught 6 of them, and a touchdown. I put up a video yesterday for the members of Gundecker Gaming, and I talked about how more and more we're seeing quarterback to pass catcher correlations winning big tournaments. Man, this smells like one of those spots where the Bills could do just that, right? Run up the score on the Dolphins here. Stefan Diggs, 65, John Brown, 6K. Maybe you wouldn't want to invest 12.5 in both receivers, but they could easily get there. Like, they could. So I'm all about some Josh Allen. I might have the majority of my correlations for Josh Allen lineups be just one pass catcher. But, man, I think this is maybe a matchup that's just, like, in plain sight that is just not getting buzzed about. With that said, I can't see myself getting to Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, nothing like that. On the Miami side, is there really run back options I feel great about? Not really. Not really, so I'm not. Maybe you volume your way into one of their pass catchers, like Jamison Crowder got there last week. But it's just Bills defense is fine. But yeah, give me some Bills, man. Give me some Bills. Fitzmagic. You guys like some Fitzmagic? Sure. Stellar says, I was doing lineup study and I noticed from 2019 Millie Makers had several weeks where the stacks were not run back with an opposing. Yeah, so every like positive correlation that we know is not 100% certainty, and also really kind of when you're doing those lineup studies, just kind of appreciate what contest you're looking at, right? When we study the Millie Maker, a lot of times we're studying the top lineup in a field of, like last week we had over 1 million entries, right? A lot of times it's going to be nearly 100,000 entries, 150,000, versus when you maybe line up studying the slant or some mid-stake stuff. I think you're going to see some different correlations land a little bit more. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's not going to be absolutely for sure you need a run back every week, right? Jacob says, I hit first with Allen last year. I like him. Charlie says, I faded this game but have definitely thought about Singletary and Allen. I want to believe that Devin Singletary one day will get 20-plus carries and a couple targets, but man, I hate running backs that are in a timeshare that also could get vultured by their own quarterback. So I can't see myself getting to Singletary, but if you're a process guy, they're a favorite. Bad defense, go for it. Missed the cheap Josh Allen days. Those were the days. I remember that one game where he went into like Minnesota when the Vikings had like a stout defense and one of the highest like home crowd noises and stuff like that, and he just like absolutely shredded them for tournaments, man. Let's move on to the next game. The Washington football team and the Cardinals. You don't need me to hype up the Cardinals. Everyone's doing it. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins. I've seen some love for Fitz and Kirk. Kenyon Drake is fine. I think Kenyon Drake is also somebody that, like, would I rather play Kenyon Drake than Jonathan Taylor? And a lot of people were saying, oh, but Chase Edmonds. Man, Kenyon Drake was 70-plus snaps, I think, last week, right? Kenyon Drake, yeah, 70% of snaps, 16 attempts. Maybe you want a couple more targets, but it's not like there's not enough opportunity there, right? DeAndre Hopkins was the guy. 16 targets, 14 receptions. Rivaled, I think, only Devonte Adams last week in terms of like productions for targets. If you want to go back to Hopkins, go for it. I'm fine with it. Kyler Murray, I think, kind of dipped into that next level for his legs, right? 25 rushing yards and a touchdown. I think I saw that none of the rushing the 13 rushing attempts, I don't think many of those were designed, but it's nice to know that, you know, he's got that confidence to take off, because this is a Redskins, gosh darn it, Washington defense that was kind of putting some pressure on Carson Wentz last week. So gotta love the air raid offense of Murray and his pass catchers here. I have I kind of like relate the Cardinals to a fully healthy Chiefs or something like that, not in terms of like actual talent, but in terms of predictive value, kind of like the Warriors for like DFS. They have so many weapons that it's so hard to say, all right, this, like, if I play Murray, you know, Christian Kirk will go off or Larry Fitz will go off. I think it's just like DeAndre Hopkins at the top. I want to like Kenyon Drake, but like none of these guys I'm playing with a high level of confidence and certainty that it's their week. and that the volume is going to be exactly what it is every week. I think DeAndre Hopkins is the only guy that I can pinpoint that on. So I think the Cardinals will be pretty popular. They have one of the highest totals on the slate, 27. They're a full touchdown favorite or 7-point favorite. I think that makes me like Kenyon Drake a little bit more. I really have a higher than I probably should infatuation with the Washington side of this game. Dwayne Haskins is 5,100. 9-star DraftKings Week 1 scores. I want to kind of display something. When it comes to like quarterbacks and what they score, there's not a whole lot of must at the end of the day, right? If I pull this up, this is from LineStar. Last weekend, Week 1, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Lamar, Kyler Murray. See how many quarterbacks are all just like between 20 and 30. I think Haskins has a chance to get to that 20 mark here. He only scored 12 last week, but this is a spot where he's projected to be a big time dog. Last week they were in it and won, right? I don't know that I'm banking on that happening twice, but it's good to know that they picked up some chemistry. Everyone seems to love each other. Ron Rivera is a very player-friendly coach. Everyone loves playing for him. Haskins has some weapons, and they're all so cheap collectively. So at 5,100, could I get 250 yards passing, even if it's garbage time, out of Haskins with a pair of touchdowns, maybe a couple of rushing attempts? He had 7 official rushing attempts last week. Could I get 20 fantasy points out of Haskins? That's really what I want for tournaments if I play him at 5K here. Because if I play him at 5K over like a 63 to 6,700 quarterback, I save myself $1,000 to 1,500, something like that. And he has really obvious correlation handcuffs for him. Logan Thomas is my favorite at 3,600. I think every video I put up this week, I've kind of really just gave you the same stats over and over. He was right up there last week with routes run per quarterback drop back. He was right up there with just snaps played as a tight end. He had red zone looks. I think he had 8 targets last week. It just makes all the sense in the world, especially against a Cardinals team that was the flowchart last year against tight ends. And I think the Cardinals drafted him as well. So if you want a little bit of narrative, something like that, it just makes a whole lot of sense to put him and Haskins together. 8K, 8,700. And then, if you can walk away with 35, 40 fantasy points, I'll take that. And then, heck, man, we were all excited to play Terry McLaurin last week, 5,900. What happened? Why are we away from that now? He had 7 targets. Maybe gets 10-plus targets in a game that should be way more pass-friendly this week as they play from behind against a air raid, fast-paced offense. I think a lot of people, maybe forget about that. The Cardinals still just play at an extremely fast pace, creating more possessions, more opportunities. So it may not be pretty, right? The Washington football team could go out there and lose by 14, 17, but it should just really lean to throwing the ball more. Ron Rivera will play more aggressive. He'll play to win versus Jay Gruden's played to not lose. Give me Haskins, McLaurin, and Logan Thomas groupings in tournaments. You can get a little fancier with Steven Sims. Last week, Antonio Gibson was going to be chalk before Boston Scott happened. I think maybe that saved a lot of people. He ended up playing 25% of snaps, 9 carries, 2 receptions. Antonio Gibson is a great comp for me from what the field thinks to the hype we have right now on Jonathan Taylor, right? I don't think it's the same 1-1. Because Taylor's situation is awfully unique. But if Boston Scott didn't happen last week, Antonio Gibson was just skyrocketing in ownership projections. Everyone was on him for his price and his pass catching ability. And people don't realize these college sweethearts don't just show up week 1, week 2 and be what they did in college. So that's another reason why I'm a little bit more hesitant to trust the herd when it comes to Taylor. But easily give me Haskins, McLaurin, and Logan Thomas groupings. Also, Dontrell Inman, I guess, is in the mix, too, if you really wanted to get crazy. See what you guys got in the chat before we matriculate on to the next one. Sway says, I'll definitely be over the field on Kenyon Drake. I'm with that. Like I said, I think at the same price as Jonathan Taylor probably has I think just because of what we know, he probably has a higher floor and a positive game script with a little bit more predictive value and usage and snaps and stuff like that, right? Washington hype is way too high for the why though. It's not that I'm hyping Washington. I'm hyping the position that they're in. Any team that we can project to really be trailing in a fast-paced game. It's not the NBA, right? You're not gonna bench starters, especially when they're all like rookies. It's just more like if Haskins throws the ball 40 times today, we're not surprised. We want to target volume for fantasy, right? I'd probably even do Darnold over Haskins. Yeah, you're on your own on that one. I couldn't get behind that. I couldn't. Absolutely not. I don't like Mclaren too much of Peterson. I mean, that's fine. I like Logan Thomas more than McLaurin, but McLaurin's a burner. Y'all sleeping on McLaurin. I have a hard time seeing the Redskins survive without leaving a tight end in to chip Chandler Jones. So with that said, I don't hate the idea of the Cardinals defense either. Right? If we're just chipping and chairing a defense to try and go get a touchdown, I think it's very reasonable to suggest that a home defense against the Washington football team could get a sack, fumble, recovery for a touchdown, something like that. So if you thought 3K for Cardinals defense is short, but I'm not playing the Washington team because I think there's some juggernaut offense. I'm playing them because of the position and the pricing. The volume should just be in their favor for what we target, which is pass attempts, targets, and fast-paced game script, more possession. So I just want to make that clear, right? I'm not out here saying to bet the Washington team to beat the Cardinals today. All right, Chiefs and the Chargers. Make it real simple here. Chiefs are a dynamic offense. I think maybe they're getting a little bit less respect than they should by the field because the Chargers are a perceived good defense, and they are. But the Chiefs just can't be guarded by any defense in the history of history. The only knock on the Chiefs here is how do you stack this and feel fiscally responsible? Patrick Mahomes, 7.7K. Tyreek Hill, 7.5K. Travis Kelce, 7K. I mean, this is an extremely expensive stack. It's hard to triple stack these guys just as it is because every week it feels like one guy is the ceiling guy, other guys are just there. And then, of course, you got the running back situation, CEH, 7.4K. So it's just like an extremely expensive stack. But I like the idea that the field seems to be less on this team, and it just seems like a mistake any week. I feel like every week you got to have some Chiefs floaters out there because they can just pop off, and even in the most unlikely of matchups, here they ended up having an extra couple days of rest, right? They played the Thursday night season opener to prepare for the Chargers. Again, all love in the world to this Chargers defense, but it's the Chiefs. Good luck. With that said, kind of like the Washington football team, you kind of project the Chiefs or the Chargers offense to have to play a little bit of catch up. And we know where we're going there. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are the two guys for me. 4,200 for Mike Williams. Keenan Allen's 5,700. Maybe feels a little bit out of range in terms of the value receivers and then the 6K guys like Mike Evans. But Keenan Allen is a high snap, high target guy. And this is a matchup that, should look his way plenty of times. They gave him that money in the offseason. No reason to suggest that he wouldn't be the apple of Tyrod Taylor's eye yet again. 8 targets last week. Hunter Henry, I also really, really, really like, and I think this is probably one of the better individual matchups for tight ends. As like if we're looking for like I don't want to say sneaky, but like maybe lower owned tight end spot, right? Let me go all the way over here. Hunter Henry has the best PFF matchup based on the potential Chargers pass catchers. He has a 31% matchup advantage over Anthony Hitchens, and last week he had a 27.6% target share, 8 targets, including 2 red zone targets. He definitely has upside in a game that could spell throwing the ball a lot more for Tyrod Taylor. Taylor, of course, a guy that I think he made a guy like Charles Clay usable week to week. So is Hunter Henry somebody that just exists in the 5K area on a week where the obvious guys like Mark Andrews kind of stick out? A lot of people especially the casuals, they'll still go to the Zach Ertz, and we go down a little bit more to the Hayden Hurst and the Logan Thomases, Juju Smith without A.J. Brown. Hunter Henry's just chilling at 5'1", and he could get wide receiver 1-2 type targets, and he has the best PFF graded matchup of all the pass catchers. So I like him. I don't need to stack the Chargers to have exposure to Henry, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. I'm going for it. That's about all I got on that one. I'm probably not playing either defense. Liking cards D more now, yeah, absolutely. Love Mike Williams in the spot. Hunter Henry too. Yep, love Mike Williams. Everyone likes Mike Williams. I saw a lot of buzz on him earlier this week too. Like Henry Williams as well. Tyra, don't like the check down. So I know that's like the big take from week 1, right? Is, oh no, Austin Eckler's not a thing anymore. And I'm not saying he is or isn't, because just like CMC didn't get targets in week 1 either. And there's definitely reason to suggest that Teddy Bridgewater and new coaching personnel, maybe they don't want to throw it to CMC as much either. But at 6,500, if they did turn into check down Charlie here for Eckler, would we be absolutely stone cold face stunned if he had 8 targets today? If the game just got crazy and they had to go 4 or 5 wide and Eckler was in the slot or something like that. So I think I'll put him in my tournament pool and probably cap him at 5 to 7%, probably 5%. We'll see where he's at in terms of ownership, but that's just one of those takes that I've been seeing a lot today or this week is that, well, Eckler's dead, right? CMC's not getting targets. I think we got to let more than 1 week kind of paint that picture, and I think if there's a week, it's against a dynamic offense like the Chiefs, where you might have to get a little bit creative as you're 2 possessions down, right? Rivers needs to get Eckler on the Colts. Yeah, I mean, he was using Heinz just fine, right? All right, we've got one left game on the docket. Right after this, right? It's only 10:30. Night is young. Right after this stream, I'm clicking the end button, and I'm going into the RunDFS.com VIP voice chat. So if you guys want to jump into that, it looks like something like this. When you go to RunDFS.com, you get yourself VIP pass, and then you click, boom, football voice. They're in there. Chopping it up, and we'll be in there. I'll probably be in there till about 2 a.m., hopefully, making my lineups and carving out my player pool, stuff like that. I'm going to retweet my projections here in a minute. So if you guys want to cash in on that, go to rundfs.com, make yourself an account, click VIP subscription, get yourself a week pass. If you're only here for football, I do cover baseball every day, and every day we have pre-lock baseball voice chats, except Sunday. Once football locks, I'm chilling. So you guys are more than welcome to come be part of that. Then, of course, we also have right here a YouTube separate subscription thing. If you guys just want to support the channel, we have the Gundecker Gaming memberships, including weekly strategy videos that are only there for members. And these aren't just like ideas that I'm coming up with. I'm asking you guys what you guys want to hear a video on when it comes to a strategy side of whatever sport it might be. Line of construction, grouping correlations is what I put up yesterday. And then, of course, we'll have early access to a lot of videos we put up to those members before they go public right here on the channel. So a lot of cool ways to support the channel and support RunDFS and get something in return. And, of course, you get access to the spreadsheet, which is going to have my projections, my whole pool, and some easy-to-navigate stats and tabs and stuff like that. Last game tonight, or this afternoon, Ravens and the Texans. Ravens are right up there with the highest team total on the slate. I love the Ravens because they seem pretty simple to group in tournaments. You're going to give me Lamar Jackson, Marquise Brown, and Mark Andrews, with a higher emphasis for me on Mark Andrews. And that's as simple as it gets for me. I don't think I'm going to dabble in the running back situation for the Ravens just yet. Last week, J.K. Dobbins, a couple touchdowns. Mark Ingram was there. But I just think the running back by committee situation there is going to be a little bit too much for me to over-project pre-flop until further notice. And that's it, right? Ravens are just one of those dynamic offenses that I just don't need to break down. You guys know they're good. They're tough. How about the Texans getting the Chiefs and the Ravens in the first 2 weeks? Watson should see a lot of pressure from the Ravens D, and he may run for his life for some rushing yards. It's kind of hard to love against a defense that practices against Lamar Jackson, right? because if anything, they should know how to scheme a mobile quarterback almost better than any defense in the league, and they have weapons to do it. If I was going to go after some Texans targets, it's going to be Will Fuller, right? 6,300. Again, right in his area. I'm probably more inclined to play like a Mike Evans or somebody like that. But he had 10 targets against the Chiefs. I think that game was going to be a little bit more friendly for an offense against the Chiefs defense than the Ravens defense will be. But Fuller's still cheap enough to kind of suggest that the volume should be there for him. Duke Johnson is questionable. Last week, Duke Johnson didn't do much. 1 target, 5 carries. With him potentially being out, even if he's in, you can make a case for David Johnson at 5'8". But I don't think we're going to have great game script for him. What I mean by that, they should be trailing, so running the ball isn't going to be a constant. 7.5, so they're 2-possession favorites or 2-possession underdogs. Do we get the pass-catching David Johnson? It looked like we might in the first quarter against the Chiefs. He caught 3 receptions on 4 targets for 32 yards, but then it just kind of stopped. Do they go back to it? Maybe. If we go to week 1 snap count data in that game against the Chiefs, David Johnson ended up playing 81% of snaps. So that's a high snap count, high volume of opportunity if they want to look his way. But again, I want to play the pass catching David Johnson here because you can't really script a lot of rushing attempts if you're down 2 possessions or if you're projected to be down 2 possessions. So it's hard to love it, but he is pretty cheap if he's going to maybe be without Duke Johnson and maybe pick up some more targets going forward. But for the most part, I just think I'm looking at like Will Fuller if I look anywhere on the Texans. Ravens defense, I think, is a fun click, but it's an expensive click. Hard to, for me this week, hard to pay over $3K for a defense and feel like I have to. I think my favorite expensive defense is going to be the Steelers just because I'm going to have so much Deontay Johnson, and the Steelers looked really, really good against the Giants. So I can double dip with Deontay Johnson if he houses a kick. And then, he's going against Drew Lock, and that doesn't especially scare me. So outside of that, I'll probably just have a whole lot of Jets 2K defense, right? Chip in a chair. All right, chat. Anything else for me? Throw it in chat now. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys hanging out. Again, the party continues in the RunDFS.com VIP Discord. Go be part of that. We'll be glad to have you. You ain't even got to grab a mic, but if you want, you can. You can just listen in and at worst get access to the spreadsheet, my game-by-game notes, and my personal player pool, which is going to be in the Guns player pool tab. So every position player that I'm going to have exposure to at a high level, right? I'm not going to put all my 2%ers, but all those guys. And then, of course, my favorite group. So if I know I'm going to have the Cowboys as a stack, I'm going to be listing all the player groups that I have in my stack. So if you guys just kind of want to get ideas off of what I'm doing or cross-reference what you're doing to me, all that's available to you guys. Chat, what do we got before we get out of here? Jacob Wilson's Hollywood Brown looks interesting. Yeah, I think week to week Marquise Brown is going to be fine. I think if we even look at the so for instance, if I go look at week 1 stats, right? Baltimore, and we look at snap counts, Marquise Brown played 62% of snaps, but Lamar Jackson didn't even play 100% of snaps because it was a blowout, right? Robert Griffin was out there hucking and chucking. So I think that's even more encouraging for a guy like Mark Andrews, who already plays 71% of snaps. If it was a neutral game, could he have pushed 80%? I think so. So I'm fine with Marquise Brown. Maybe his snaps aren't going to be like super appealing, but if they push 70% in a neutral game, definitely a burner that Lamar looks at. 100+ yards on 5 receptions. That's Marquise Brown football. So as long as his price is moderate to low, I'll take it. Charlie Boltman, Frank Clark and Chris Jones are going to eat that O-line's lunch. I can see a lot of pass attempts under pressure. Gunn, what defenses do you like the most? So real quick, I love the Steelers. I love double dipping the Steelers with Deontay Johnson. I'm not going to prioritize the Steelers, and what I mean by that is if I need $1,800 to be the difference in a great play versus a punt, I'll just save that off of my defense. Defense for me is the highest variance position in DFS right now. It used to be kicker, but now it's defense, right? Since kicker's been eliminated in most places. Defense is all about who scores a touchdown, really. It really is. And you never know what quarterback's going to cough one up, what kicker's going to house one, or kick returner's going to house one. So, but on paper, Steelers would be kind of one of my favorite defenses to target against a hobbled Denver team. And then down here, the Jets. I'm going to have a lot of shots at the Jets. Last week, the Redskins, I think, were one of the cheapest defenses. Gosh, the Washington team was one of the cheapest defenses. The Jets are down here at 2K. Jets got mollywopped by the Bills, and they still walked away with 7 fantasy points, giving up 400-plus total yards. I think the Niners are great, but they're still a West Coast to East Coast team. Defense beat up a little bit. No George Kittle. And the Jets just aren't like a trash defense, in my opinion, anyway, right? So I'll have a lot of Jets defense, but that's just like a chip in a chair punt in the dark. I don't hate the Cardinals defense at 3K. That's it. Any other like exposures, just defenses I put in the pool, cap at 10%. If the Opto gives it to me, sure. You could handcuff the Titans D to Derrick Henry if you needed to. Nothing else here that I'm gonna force in. Just a lot of Steelers and Jets. Pivot with T.Y. Hilton. Jonathan Taylor chalk this week. Warranted thoughts, kinda. Man, I don't want to get back into that, Kevin. I don't know if you're late, but if you rewind the VOD a little bit, I actually kind of explained where I was at on Taylor. I don't think anyone's crazy to be on him. I'm not warm and fuzzy agreeing with the chalk levels of projections on him because he was such a low snap count guy last week. I think he's going to evolve into a high snap guy, but I feel like any responsible team is going to just kind of pan that out. And it's the same, like I said, last week we all forgot about Antonio Gibson was in line to be chalk, and he ended up playing 20-30% of snaps. I kind of feel the same way with Taylor. I think they're going to ease him in. So at best, I feel like he's in a timeshare with Nahim Heinz, and I just don't feel great. But I don't want anyone to be off of him because of me a couple hours before lock. So much variance in the defense, hard to predict. Absolutely a punt defense all the time. T.Y. or Marvin Jones Jr.? That's a great one. I love the tournament idea of Marvin Jones, right? A lot of people was all over Marvin Jones last week without Kenny Golladay. No Kenny Golladay again. I love Quintez Cephas for the air yards and volume you saw last week. But the Bears matchup wasn't as like favorable as this week is, and I think Marvin Jones, has a good history against the corners he'll be up against today. The volume should be there again. The game script should be there again. The Packers are one of the medium-sized favorites on the slate. So should be throwing the football. So I like that. 1v1ing him with T.Y. Hilton. I think we got to check off our process, right? So what do we look for in receivers? I want my receivers to either be playing in a neutral or from behind game script, just as a general rule of thumb. And if we look at T.Y. Hilton, they are a slight favorite, whereas the Lions are a 6-point dog. So I feel like the pressure for the Lions to throw a little bit more is there. So maybe I lean Marvin Jones, but it's not a snap call. I think both of those guys have a similar window of targets. The Colts are limping with potential pass catchers, with Jack Doyle going down. Obviously, we know Mack went down. That's a good 1v1, man. It really is. But I might lean Marvin Jones for tournaments. Might. Taylor, Henry, Zeke, chalk of the week. Yeah, I'll have Henry and Zeke all day long, all day strong. But I'm not co-signing the jam it in with Taylor just yet. I'm going to find value in receiver. Yeah, there's tons of value in receiver for sure. You're fine, Kevin. Anything. If you guys are watching this late, you'll be able to rewind this. And when I go off the air, it'll be available ASAP if you just want to rewind it. Guns going in depth. Yeah, I kind of went longer than I wanted to, but I got to go get into Discord anyway. If you guys do want to hit that thumbs up for me, I appreciate it. If you guys want to win $20 on Monday, come back in a little bit, leave a comment on this video or comment on any other video. Each comment that a subscriber leaves on a video during that week is worth one entry to the Streamlabs raffle that I'll do on Monday or Tuesday in my week 2 review video. And we'll give out $20. Last week, Daniel won $20. Daniel Lopez. Next week could be you. I'm going to get into the RunDFS.com VIP voice chat. Again, you guys are invited to join me over there. Otherwise, Twitter.com/GundackerSports is the way to reach out to me, interact with me. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I'll see you guys tomorrow right here at Lock. I will be live right here at Lock, sweating the games, right? We did all the work. We did all the research, all the lineup construction. Tomorrow, it's about relaxing. It's about watching the games, enjoying it. I'll have the YouTube chat up like we do here, and I'll have the voice chat open as well. I did it last week. We only had like 10 viewers, but we're chilling, right? It doesn't cost me anything extra to go live. So if you want to be part of that, come back tomorrow at Lock. Otherwise, I love you guys.